Hi, and welcome to the second session of Python Fundamentals offered by the Clifton Park Half Moon Library. Thanks for joining me tonight. And I'm not sure if well, first of all, I hope everybody that is registered for the class was able to download Python onto their machines, and they were able to do some of the assignments that were out there in Google Classroom. Anybody who's having a problem downloading Python and using Python, please feel free to email me through Google Classroom, and I'll do my best to get you hooked up. So I'm not sure if you remember, but last session we left off with talking about the data type numbers, specifically integers and float. And I think we closed the session with talking about the random function that Python has at our disposal to generate random numbers. So tonight we're gonna kick off the session 2 with talking about strings. All right. So string literals in Python are surrounded by either a single quote or double quotes. I recommend using double quotes, but it's your preference. The only catch is that you either have to use single quotes or double quotes around the string. You can't have a single quote, then the string, the text, and then a double quote. You'll see an error come up in the Python shell when you do that. So, so a string. If you look on my screen, off to the left, I have the idle text editor session up, and to the right, I have the Python shell. So why don't we just enter a couple of commands and follow along with me at home. But let's enter the string hello on the command line in the Python shell. So off to the right, I'll type double quotes, hello, double quotes, and that is a string, right? If I hit enter, it generates the string hello. Okay, you can display a string literal with the print function. So in your program, if I wanted to, let's say I create a variable, and I'll name it hello string, and I will assign it the value of the text hello. Okay, so I hit enter, and now if you want to use the print function in Python, it's the format is print. So I'll type that in the command line. So print, P-R-I-N-T, lowercase, surrounded by parentheses. And what goes into parentheses is what you want Python to print. So in this case, we want to print out the value that's in the variable we just created called hello string. So inside the parentheses, I'll just type the variable name hello string, and I'll close it out with a parenthesis. Now when I hit enter, it will print the value hello of the variable hello string, and there it does it. So if you wanted to print a string, you would just type print parentheses, and let's say I enter welcome, surrounded by quotes. This is a string, so welcome. If I can spell. There we go. All right, so when I hit enter, it will print the string welcome, and there it does it. So that's how that's how we assign a string to a variable name. So I named it hello string, and I assigned the value of a string called hello. Now, if you happen to want to do multi-line strings, there is a way to do it, and what you can do is, let's say we create a variable named A. I'm going to do this over in the idle stream. So in idle, off to the left, I create a variable named A, and I make it equal to, now to do a multi-line string, I'm going to use double quote, double quote, double quote. So 3 double quotes, and then I'll add my string, and I'll just type in some text, some Latin text. I hit enter. And then I close it with double quote, double quote, double quote. So 3 double quotes. And when you do this, so you can see that the variable named A is going to have a value of 3 lines of string. And what I'll do is I will print A, and I'll do run module, and I have to save this program, and I will call it, I'll put it under my website, and I will call it string example, string EX. I hit save, and it's running. If you look off to the right in the Python shell, it should come up, and it prints the 3 lines of the string with the exact line breaks that I have when I loaded up the string into the variable named A. So that's how you do a multi-line string. You would use 3 double quotes, and then add your lines of text, and then 3 double quotes at the end. Now you should do the same with 3 single quotes in the beginning and 3 single quotes at the end. Like I said, for strings, you just have to surround them with either single quotes or surround them with double quotes. Now, strings are arrays. They're arrays of characters. And the way to be able to find individual characters that make up a string is by using square brackets, because in any array you have position 1 will be 0, position 2 will be index of 1. So let me show you an example. So if you look over on the left in the idle string, I have a string. I create a string called hello world. Hello, comma, world. All right, double quotes. Now, if I print A, it would print hello, comma, world. But say I wanted to get, I just want to print the O in hello. So H in hello would be position 0, E would be position 1, L is 2, L is 3, and O would be 4. So the way to print this out, you would print parenthesis, then you would have the variable name, which is A in this case, and then you would use square brackets. and I want to print the O in hello, which is position 4. Now, it's very important to understand that position 1 is, the H is in the first position, but it has an index of 0. The index numbers start at 0, not at 1. So HELLO is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 for the O. So just around that index number that you want to print out with square brackets, and then close out the print statement with parentheses. All right, so when I run this, it should just print out O from the hello word, hello. So run module, and if you look in the Python shell, my output is just the O in hello. Now you should return a range of characters by using the slice syntax. All right, specify the start index and the end index, not including itself, separated by a colon, to return part of the string. So if you look in the idle screen on the left, using the A equals hello world example, we're going to do a print of A, and then the first number is going to be the starting index. So say I want to print, I just want to print LLO in hello. So first you have to figure out what the starting index number is. So if H is 0, E is 1, and then the first L in hello is 2. So we would put 2. And then you also list the ending number, not including itself. You separate it by a colon. And the ending number is, if this is, the first L is 2, then we want to print LLO. So it'd be 2, 3, 4. But then the ending number in Python, it's a little confusing, but the ending number that you're entering doesn't include itself. So even though the index number for O is 4, you want to put 5 because it's not going to include 5, index 5. All right, so this is how you would slice the string to only output the part of the string that you want. So I'll do a run module, and my output should be LLO. And if you look in the Python shell off to the right, I have LLO. So that's how you go about slicing strings. Another thing I want to talk about is negative indexing. So with my example off to the left, I have the variable named A equal to hello world. If I wanted to grab the D in world, the very last character, with negative indexing, you would use -1. So I do a print, parenthesis, A, the variable name, square bracket, -1, square bracket, and parenthesis. When I run this, it should print out the character D in hello world. And it does. If you look off to the right, it's in the bottom of the right-hand side of my screen. I have the Python shell, and it printed out D. So -1 uses negative indexing, and that brings it all the way to the end of your string. Another thing you can do with strings is you can use the length function. So if I want to print out the length of hello world, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the comma is 6, the space is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the length should be, for hello comma world, it should be 12 characters long. So the way to do that is we get rid of the square brackets and the -1. And what we can do is just type in LEN, it's the abbreviation for length, and you do parentheses around the variable that you're trying to print, or trying to get the length of, and then you close out the print statement with the parentheses also. So if I do a run here in the Python shell, it should tell me I have a length of 12. For some reason, it's not working. And there we go. So when I run it, if you look in the Python shell on my right-hand side, you should come up with 12. And while I'm doing these examples, I hope you're following along at home. You'll get so much more out of it if you're not just listening to me, but while you're listening to me, you're actually doing these examples in idle and running them through the Python shell to see what the results are. Now let's show you about some methods, some built-in methods that Python has for you to be able to use on strings. So the first method we're going to take a look at is called strip. So if you want to strip away any white space at the beginning of your string or at the end of your string. So I'm going to change my example. So if you look in the idle session off to the left, you have the variable named a equals, and I'm going to put a couple of spaces before h and hello, and a couple of spaces after the d in world. And I'm going to print that. So I'm going to get rid of the len method that we use, and I'm going to add strip. And the result should be just hello, comma, space world, because it will strip away any spaces from the end, from the beginning or the end of your string. So run module. Oh, there's a little error. Hold on. Now let's talk about Python arithmetic operators, or Python operators. Now Python, tonight we're going to be covering 4 ways that Python groups its operators. And the first way is arithmetic operators. So what Python does for addition, it uses the plus sign. For subtraction, the minus sign. For multiplication, it uses the asterisk. And for division, it uses the forward slash. And lastly, I just want to tell you really briefly about the modulus sign, which is just a percent sign. And what that is it returns the remainder. So one example would be, say I had, I wanted to print, parenthesis, let's see, 13 divided by 4. And so what that should return is 1. Because 4 goes into 13 3 times for 12. And 13 minus 12 is 1. So it just returns the remainder. So we get rid of these signs. So we're talking about Python operators, and we're specifically talking about arithmetic operators. So I'm going to do a file, save as, and I'll do operator examples. Save. And then I'll do run module. Oops. You remember, I had mentioned that in Python, indentation is very, very important. So in my print statement, it threw an error because I have a space before the letter P in print. So all I have to do is do backspace, and you can see in my idle session, the red box went away. So if I run it now, oops, actually I want to change it because I don't want division. We're talking about modulus. So 13% 4 should return 1. So run module. Module, and it returns 1, if you see on the bottom of my screen. Now let's tell you about the assignment operators. So when we created variables, say we create A, we use the assignment operator equal, and I'll just say equal to 33. All right, so the equal sign is the most commonly used assignment operator in Python. But say you want to say A equals, so say A equals 31, and I just want to add 1 to it. So what you can do is you can do A plus 1. Sorry. So A plus equal 1 is the same as plus equal 1 is the same thing as A equals A plus 1, right? Either way, the result is going to be 34, right? Because you started with 33 and you're adding 1 to it. But this is, the plus equal 1 is a shorter way to write that code instead of saying A equals A plus 1. All right, so these are assignment operators, and you should do the same thing with A. Instead of plus equals 1, I should do asterisk, multiplication equals 1, or why don't I make it 2? So that would be the same as A equals A times 2. Times 2. All right, so those are assignment operators. And so next we have comparison operators, which will be, once we go over conditionals, if, elif, and else in Python, we'll be using these all the time, because what comparison operators are is they're just comparing one value to another. So say we had A equals 2. So over in my idle session, and B equals 5. And say you want to do if A greater than B. Right? So it's comparing the value of A with the value of B. So some of the operators in the comparison operators are, now equals is equal. So that's a little bit different. You need 2 equal signs, not just 1, like in the assignment operators where you only had the 1. Some of the other ones are exclamation point equal, which is not equal. So if A is not equal to B, which would be true, right? Because one has a value of 2 and one has a value of 5. And some of the other value comparison operators are greater than, or less than, or greater than equal to, or less than equal to. So those are comparison operators. You're going to be using them a lot when we start conditionals. The last category of operators used in Python that we're going to cover tonight are logical operators. Now, when we after learning about conditionals, next session, sometimes you have complex conditions where you're looking at multiple conditions, and so the 2 logical operators that we use all the time in Python are the words and or. So say I had the variable, if you look at my idle session off to the left, if I had the variable A equals 4, and I had a complex condition statement that said, if A A is less than 5 and A is less than 10. So I'm using the logical operator of AND to join two conditions, right? So I'm looking at, is A less than 5 and if A is less than 10. Now, for this to be true, both conditions have to be true. So with A having a value of 4, A is less than 5 and A is less than 10. So both conditions are true, so this would be a true statement. Now the or, if I had A, if A is less than 5 or A is less than 4, this also would be true. So here I'm using the Python logical operator of or. And is A less than 5? Yes, that's true. Is A less than 4? No. A is equal to 4. So this is not true. But in the or statement, if either condition is true, if one of them is true, then the statement is true. Because it's either or. With and, both have to be true for it to be true. So that's it for Python operators. And so now let's talk about the user input statement in Python. So if you want to get input from a user, you have to use the input method. So the format of the input method is, let me get rid of this stuff. So the format is going to be input, parenthesis, and then the question you have for the user, parenthesis, and that's it. Now, if a user enters input, so say you have in your Python program, you have an input statement and the user goes out there and enters something. Well, unless you assign this input to a variable, it just goes out into space. You never know what it was. So that's why you have to assign a variable to it. So I'm going to put, I'll give you an example. So say you had a pizza parlor and you wrote a Python program and you asked the user, how many slices of pizza do you want? So I'll do num slices. That would be my variable name. And we're using the assignment operator, which is equals. And then you have the input statement. And inside parentheses, the question is, and this would be a string, so you run double quotes, how many slices of pizza do you want? Question mark and double quotes. And that's it for the input statement. Now, if I ran this program, the question, how many slices of pizza do you want, would come up in the Python shell. And then that is where the user would enter the input. And once they enter the input, that value, say I wanted 3 slices, so I enter 3. That value would go into num slices. Now, anytime you use an input statement in Python, it's always going to return a string. So in the example that I gave you, let me show you another example where a basic input statement will be fine. So instead of number of slices, I'm going to say favorite color. Favorite color is my variable name, equals, and I'll ask the user, what is your favorite color? Question mark. All right, so in this case, with favorite color, it's fine the way the input statement is because it's going to return a string. All right, input statements always return a string. But in the example down below, I have number of slices going to equal a number, right? I want, as the pizza parlor owner, I want the user to return a number of slices, so I know how many to make and how many to charge them for. So in this case, you have to use a function called eval for evaluate, short for evaluate, and you surround the whole input statement with the eval function, and that will convert the string. So if the user enters 3, the number 3 for 3 slices. If I don't use eval, it'll return the string, the number 3. So without eval, it would return double quotes the number 3. It would return the string, the number 3. I don't know if that makes sense, but what we want is to return the number 3. So we can actually do calculations with it. So all you have to do is convert the normal output that is returned from an input statement from a string to a number is just surround it with eval. All right, so it's eval parentheses and the whole input statement, and then end parentheses, and that's it. So eval is used all the time, and why don't I run this? So I'm going to do save as. And I'll call it input. Yes. Save. All right, so this should ask me 2 questions in the Python shell. So if you look down at the bottom, let me raise this up. So it's asking me, what is your favorite color? And you don't have to put double quotes around it. You just respond, say, my favorite color was blue. So in the Python shell, it asks the user what color, what was their favorite color. Enter blue, hit enter. And then my next input statement in my program says, how many slices of pizza do you want? And I say, I want 3. And enter, and boom, it all works. So that is the input statement. We're going to be using that quite a bit in these sessions. Let me just minimize him. Okay. So next we're going to talk about the data structure called lists. All right, so just like if you went to the supermarket, you have a list for groceries. That's what a list is, right? It has multiple items inside of it. And the format is the list name. I'll get rid of the input statements that we just covered. So the format of a list is list name equals, and then square brackets, and then item. So so it would be item 1, comma, item 2, comma, item 3, and then you close out the list with a square bracket. So now I have a list with 3 items in whatever the list name this is. So why don't we do an example? So say I have groceries. So I have a groceries list. So I name it groceries, and I'm going to have bread, comma, sugar, comma, and milk, comma. All right, so I have 3 items, bread, sugar, and milk. And now if I want to print out those items from the list, I would do print, parenthesis, and just name the list name inside the parentheses, and that will print out your list. So I'm going to do a save as, list, run module, and then often in the Python shell, I've got bread, sugar, and milk. So it prints them all out. Now, if I wanted to do find out the length of, well, first of all, a list is an array. So remember, bread is in the first position, right? So, but the index number for that position is 0. And the index number for sugar would be 1. The index number for milk would be 2. So you start with 0 as far as the index numbers go. So it'd be 0, 1, 2. But the number of items in the list would be bread, sugar, and milk, which is 1, 2, 3. So there'd be 3 total items in the list. So say I want to print out the length of the list. So it would be print, parentheses, len, the abbreviation for length, and you surround the list name groceries with parentheses. So if I ran this statement, it should come back with 3. And if you look at the bottom of my Python shell that I'm highlighting, it comes back with 3. All right, so with lists, there are a few commands I just want to cover. There are a few methods that you can use to manipulate your list. So before we go into all the different methods you can use you can use on lists in Python. Say I wanted to access, I wanted to print just milk from the groceries list. I would do a print. Oops. I would do print groceries. That's the list name, and then in square brackets, I would do the index number of milk. Now the index number of milk, bread would be 0, sugar is 1, and milk would be 2. So inside the square brackets, I would put a 2, close it out with square brackets, and then end parentheses for the print statement. So if I ran this now, it should print out just milk from the list. And if you look at the bottom of my Python shell on the right-hand side, it prints out milk. All right, so now let's go into a few of the methods that you can use. So say I wanted to change sugar to Oreos. So the way to do that is I would name the list, which is groceries in this example. So groceries equals, and then I would say, actually, I want to replace milk. So milk is in the 0 for bread. So the index number is 0 for bread, 1 for sugar. So milk is in the second position, or I'm sorry, replacing sugar. So sugar is in the number 1 position. So groceries, square bracket, 1, square bracket, oops, equals, and then double quotes, I'm going to replace it with Oreos. Right, so I'm replacing sugar from the list with Oreos. So I do the list name, and I do the index number where sugar, the item sugar lives, and then I replace it with an item named Oreos. So if I do a print of groceries now, it should print out bread, Oreos, milk, instead of the sugar. If you look at the bottom of my Python shell, I've got bread, Oreos, and milk. Next, let's talk about the append method. So say I wanted to add sugar back to our list. We can append it. So I'm going to comment out this this adding of the Oreos, or swapping out Oreos for sugar. All right, so actually, why don't I put it back? So after replacing sugar with Oreos, I want to append sugar back onto the list. So you just name, it's the list name dot append, which is the method that we're using, parenthesis, and double quotes, and I'll just add sugar back on there. And that should append it to the end of the list. And then I'll print out groceries, and we should have bread, Oreos, milk, and then sugar just being appended. So let's see what happens. So we have bread, Oreos, milk, and there's sugar on the end. So that's the append method. Now say I want to remove bread. I'm tired of the bread. So I'm going to remove the item bread from the groceries list. And I can do that by typing the list name, groceries, dot remove, parenthesis, and double quotes. And I'm going to remove bread, and parenthesis. And let's see what happens. Now I should only have 3 items left in the list. And if you look at the bottom of my Python shell, I have Oreos, milk, and sugar because I removed bread. The last method I want to tell you about is the insert method. So if I wanted to insert an item in a specific position of the list, when we use the pen, it would just add an item to the end of the list. But say I want to, let's see, right now we have in our list, we have Oreos, milk, and then sugar. So say I want to add an item right after Oreos. Oreos is in position, it's in the first position, so it has an index of 0. So I want to add an item after Oreos. So it would be in the second position, but it will have an index of 1. So the way to do this is, once again, you start with the list name, groceries dot insert. Oops. Groceries dot insert, parentheses, and you put the position that you want. So in this case, we want it in index number of 1, sorry. So it's 1, comma, back up here. So 1, comma, space, and then the item that you want to add. So double quotes, because it's a string. So I want to add, I don't know, donuts. Double quotes, parenthesis, and that should add donuts right after the first item, which is Oreos. So it should be Oreos, donuts, milk, and then sugar. in our list. So I'll print out groceries at the end. Let's see what happens. And there we go. I got Oreos, donuts, milk, and sugar. And that's it for lists. So we're running out of time, but I wanted to cover the for loop in Python. So Python uses two loops. One's a for loop and the other one's the while loop. The while loop we'll cover in the next session. But tonight I just want to quickly cover the for loop. So the for loop, the format is for and then a temporary variable name in, the word in, and then you can either use the range method or you can use you can loop through a list, you can loop through so basically the for loop is used to loop a certain number of times. All right, so why don't I start with using the for loop. So temporary variable name, this is going to receive a number from 0 to whatever number of times you want to loop. So a lot of times we'll just use an x for the temporary variable name. It's short and sweet. So for x in, and then we'll use the range method, parentheses, and then you put in the number of times you want to loop. So say I want to loop 5 times. And then you end the for loop statement with a colon. So it's for, the word for, lowercase, and then a temporary variable name. This should be whatever you want to call it. You can call it your name or whatever, but x works very easily. And then the keyword in, and then we're using the range method. So we're going to range and loop 5 times. Whatever in the parentheses is the number of times you're going to loop around. So, and then followed by a colon. And then when you hit enter, if you're in idle, the text editor, it automatically indents, because the statements that you want to execute with it every time you loop have to be indented inside the for loop. All right. So say I want to print. I'll do a print statement inside the for loop. Print parenthesis, and I'm just going to print x, and let's see what comes out. So the first time through in the loop, x will have a value of 0. Remember, index numbers start at 0. So x will be 0. Second time through the loop, x will have a value of 1. And the third time, it'll have a value of 2, and then a value of 3, and then finally a value of 4. Because it loops 5 times. So first time 0, second time 1, third time 2, then 3, and then 4. So let's see if this is right. So that's what it should print out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is, and that's what it does. If you look at my Python shell, I've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so if you look, I kept the groceries list. So say we want to do a for loop and loop through the grocery list items. So this grocery list has 3 items. So it has bread, sugar, and milk, which means it's going to loop 3 times, right? 1 for each of these items. Once there are no more items in the list for it to loop through, it stops. So instead of having the name of x in our for loop, why don't we call it items? So for items, and instead of range now and the number of times we want to loop, now we're going to just name the list that we want to loop through. So groceries. So for items in groceries. Now items This name, like I said, should be whatever you want. I should keep it as X if we wanted to. So if that makes more sense, why not just make it X? So for X in groceries, right, this has to be the list name if we're going to loop through this list. First time through the list, X should have a value of bread. Second time, it should have a value of sugar, and the third time, it'll have a value of milk. So if I run this, it should output bread, sugar, and then milk. And it will, guaranteed. And there it is, bread. And then the next time through the loop, I have sugar, and then the next time I have milk. So by using, for for loops, by using the range method or by looping through a list, those are the ways with a for loop, you're looping through a certain number of times. When we get into while loops, you're looping based on a condition being true. Once it's not true, the while loop stops. And then one thing that's very important, at the end of a for loop, you have to end it with a colon. And then anything you're going to execute, any statements you're going to execute inside the for loop have to be indented inside the for loop. So if I had done this statement, it would blow up because it wouldn't know what X is. Right? It's not indented inside the for loop. So let's see, anything else? So I hope you got a bit out of tonight's session, and look for some exercises that will cover the things that we went over tonight. Look for them in Google Classroom, and any questions with the exercises or what I've covered today, please feel free to email me, and hopefully I'll be able to answer those questions for you. Otherwise, I will see you for the next session next week, and have a good night, and thanks very much for watching my tutorial.